The zombies experiences in Black Ops 3 were simply that, experiences. Each one had its own personality, and Zetsubou no Shima, it's no exception. Unfortunately, it's the least fantastical of all the maps because, well, it had to be. If Treyarch decided to add apothecons and dragons while pushing the map design to an abhorrent and complicated level, all nuance would have fallen straight through the cracks. What separates this map from the litter is that you really have to get to know it. You just have to. Zetsubou was birthed from developers solely to innovate and push forward the zombies game mode as a whole. This map has so much to do, but only if the player chooses to do it. And most importantly, nothing is overtly difficult to figure out. Most of the new features implemented in Zet were designed to be accidental discoveries. Don't believe me? Let's discuss. Spawning into the map places you next to all of the new ideas that Treyarch had implemented into this new DLC. The small altar with the symbol on it, a watering bucket, new seed drops, areas to plant those seeds, and cobwebs covering the gobblegum machines. Head to your right and open 2 doors to find a large totem with more glowing yellow symbols. Aiming at them reveals challenges that need to be completed. Looking to the left to see a slightly larger altar bearing resemblance to the smaller altar we just spawned next to. And the learning doesn't stop there. When going to turn on power, the player is shown even more new tools that can benefit them, and you finally open the bunker to complete the underwater lockdown phase, where you learn the orange pollen sacs provide oxygen, and you receive your first part to open Pack-a-Punch. You then realize the other 2 parts are likely in the other corridors, and by the time Pack-a-Punch is finally open, you've seen the entire map. You've been exposed to all the new gameplay mechanics, and you're now able to survive utilizing your experience from just the first few rounds.
Gameplay.
How do all these systems function in relation to gameplay? Well, there is a cost and benefit to everything you do in Zetsubou, and the rewards are so great that it makes following through with each task worth every second. The plant watering system gives the player endless possibilities when it comes to outcomes. You can simply plant a seed, do nothing for 3 rounds, and be rewarded with a Shiva. But an experienced player can water their seed each round with a different type of water, shoot the wonder weapon on the soil and be rewarded a perk, Pack-a-Punch weapon, and even the extra life imprint, which is my personal favorite reward. Completing the challenge totem gives you a reward per challenge, ranging from a max ammo, Pack-a-Punch weapon, or a perk bottle where you can then pick which perk you want. And if you know the map well enough, you'll head straight to the puddle of Widow's Wine in that secret cave. The player can take their sweet time with all of these features, which accommodates all playstyles. A lot of these features need to be used at least once to complete the main quest, but a high round player can utilize these features for as long as they see fit, which makes the replayability value go sky high.
Easter eggs.
Once Black Ops 4 hit the shelves, Treyarch realized their new approach to zombies, all the main quests, or Easter eggs rather, would have to become streamlined. The formula became as follows: power, shield, Pack-a-Punch, quest, boss fight, rinse and repeat. And while there had been previous quests in other maps starting all the way back in Black Ops 1, the recipe that Blundell and his team eventually settled on became a staple. And not just for Treyarch titles. I mean, just look at Infinite Warfare and World War II zombies modes. However, during the launch of DLC 2, fans were not yet bored of this take on zombies, meaning the patterns Treyarch implemented were not noticed, or maybe fans just didn't care yet. Either way, Zetsubou's quest sits in the middle of the road compared to what I consider to be a standard Treyarch Easter egg. I find the setting up to be very enjoyable in Zetsubou, and this is likely due to the fact that the gameplay is so fresh. And this brings me to a point I made in the Revelations video I posted about a week or so ago. It's very important to give the player recognizable mechanics, but just put them in a new set dressing. This is why turning the power on in Revelations doesn't necessarily feel brand new, but instead has that sense of familiarity with a different methodology. And that's the Zetsubou main quest in a nutshell. The new gameplay mechanics were so innovative it allowed for completing these staple steps to feel part of the main quest instead of an obligation. And nothing was wasted. Every new idea Treyarch put into this map was utilized for the main quest in some way. Completing the challenge totem created a lightning storm which allowed your shield to be electrified, allowing access to hidden areas where parts of the elevator or weapon upgrades laid in wait. Unlocking the Skull of Non-Stopway let players mesmerize areas of the map to reveal, other physical maps and hidden doors, not to mention opening an entirely new area to train. Creating the Wonder Weapon gave players the means to disintegrate a special wall of cobwebs that led our crew to the first of 2 boss fights. And after you beat Mr. Spider, or whatever the hell his name is, you can grab his fang to utilize in an upgrade quest for your Wonder Weapon. After you've finally beaten Takio and captured his soul and the beloved summoning key, players are rewarded with Perkaholic and new areas to camp and train in, expanding the map even further. The ratio of rewards to task completion is unparalleled to any other zombies map in COD history. I mean, just think about it. Just for simply planting playing the game or completing the game's main quest, players are rewarded with perks, weapons, upgrades, hidden rooms, and new trainable areas. This map is multi-dimensional in a way that is impossible to replicate.
Story.
Now personally, I don't really like to implement story into these reviews because generally a good game is still good regardless of the story, but with Zet, something feels wrong about overlooking it. If you were like me and grew up playing zombies during World at War, then you'll remember learning about Takeo and his love for the Emperor, and of course back then it was a silly little trope, but once Blundell and Houston renovated the zombie storyline, we came to find out that Takeo was blinded by his loyalty and didn't really see the error of his leader's ways. I remember watching the cutscene for the very first time and being emotionally struck at how important the message was. Yes, of course, it was beautiful and the implications for the Aether storyline were huge, especially looking back on it, but what I find most appealing is how rebellious the message is, but in a good way. Too often in life, we are following the direction of others and forgetting how important it is to be yourself, to make sure you can sleep at night and be happy with who you are. Then out of nowhere, a realization happens and your perspective is shattered in a moment's notice. But instead of having direction of how to pick up those pieces, you need to pick them up yourself. And you come to realize, while it's okay to have direction and people to look up to, you're really just on your own. The authority of others is simply an illusion that can be utilized to manipulate and transform people in a negative way, and it's so hard to be fully honest with yourself because, no one else can judge you the way that you judge you. So, through the approval of others, we tell ourselves that we must be okay, even if we're not. And once Takeo realizes his morals have been compromised because of the fraudulency of his leader, he feels pain. A pain that makes him question every single thing he's done in his entire life. And Richtof sees that from across the room and realizes Takeo's pain. The player realizes it too, and it's pretty amazing.
Final thoughts.
The only reason this map does not get the ridiculous level of praise as DE or Gorod is simply because of where the innovations took place. Also, the map was super glitchy on launch, and I know for a fact that didn't help with its perception. The previous maps before Zet had pushed for change and progression in huge areas. Boss fights, elemental wonder weapons, and tentacle bosses that chase you around the city. But Zet didn't really do that. The Easter egg quest was not long, the boss fight wasn't really epic, and the enemies were kind of reskinned zombies and panzers, and the map, it was just an island where you water plants and repair elevators. That being said, the areas where change took place are much more important in the grand scheme of things. Think of it like this. You know when your parents tell you to date people based on what's on the inside, not the outside? It's kind of like that. You grow to love Zet by getting to know Zet, because there is no lightning staff or fire bow. There was no monster you fisted to an orgasm and shot giant black holes that sucked zombies into another dimension. The innovation was strange and almost misplaced, like having a part 1 mini-boss fight, adding hidden new playable areas, challenge systems, interactable reward systems, and don't forget, getting eaten by plant monsters. And while we had seen flavors of these things in the past, they were never as flushed out as they were in Zet. During the season of Black Ops 3, I likely would have told you that another map was my favorite, but after going back and replaying all these amazing zombies experiences again, I can definitely say that Zet's my favorite by far. Whether you are an egghead or a high rounder, Zetsubou keeps the player engaged at a deeper and more intrinsic level than any other map in Zombies history. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you don't really mind, give this video a like or subscribe, or dislike it and just tell me what I can do better to make the videos more custom to what your preferences are. I'd really appreciate that. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.